we're now in the middle of the season. I love these types of games as Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go up against the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud in a huge matchup for both teams. Not just wild card playoff implications, but also divisional implications, divisional winning the division implications as well for both teams, as they're both still within striking distance to win their division. Tampa Bay definitely. Houston's fallen a little bit behind, but they did beat Jacksonville earlier in the year, and so who's to say they can't do it again and maybe kind of do something similar to what they did last year. But these games are so much fun against two different types of teams as well. Texans are a young, rebuilding team, while the Buccaneers, obviously a lot of that roster is still the Super Bowl winning roster from a couple of years ago. You have now I feel like saying journeyman quarterback is a little insulting to Baker Mayfield.
I would say reclamation project is probably the better term.
Let's go with that
for him. Not that he was ever really like damaged goods. He was kind of passed around.
The Browns did do him a little dirty.
He never did really get a fair shake in there. So,
but that's a separate video. So,
yeah.
But he is now. He's trying to establish himself and not be just a stopgap quarterback for the Buccaneers and try and continue make them go deep into the playoffs. So they're also picking later in the first round. So all the good quarterbacks are gone by then. But it's just an interesting kind of dynamic with both these teams. What's your overall kind of expectations for this game overall in the Bucs and the Texans on the season so far?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game. These teams, in very odd ways, remind me of each other in the they're on the verge of contending, but not quite category, as you mentioned in the intro. I still don't know what I think of either of these teams either, and we're halfway through the season, just because the Houston Texans look really good, and then they have a performance like last week against the Panthers, and then the Buccaneers started out 2 or 3-0, I think, and then they haven't looked as great since the beginning of the year. And with Baker Mayfield under center, there's still a lot of questions about him. He is having a decent year. 1,600 yards, 10 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. That's a good stat line. So it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see what this game turns out to be. I want to toss it back over to you, though, and kind of get your thoughts on both of these teams as well.
Yeah, I love the story of CJ Stroud and the season that Houston has had so far. I think it's great for the organization. Also, I feel happy for the organization, especially with everything they've been through over the past couple of years. And so to see them now, I think really hit on this pick, hit on the D'Amico Ryans pick as well, hit on the Will Anderson pick also. But I think Nico Collins is coming around. It's fun watching him. Tank Dell, Robert Woods, I think is having another good year. He's being the veteran receiver that we all knew he could be. Yeah, and then same thing with Dalton Schultz as well. He's had a good season so far. So it's just fun to see this team and to see how they are playing. And I think a loss like that last week is kind of expected of maybe a little bit of a young – not expected, but it doesn't surprise me nearly as much because of how young the team is. So not capitalizing on the road and trying to win on the road as well, which they have done a couple times this year so far. But in general, though, then on the flip side, Tampa Bay, I watched the Tampa Bay Thursday Night Football game, and there is just I think that they're just lacking in the trenches, as well as I think Baker Mayfield just is not the long-term guy for them. I thought he missed a couple of throws. In general, they really did struggle to move the ball down the field up until the fourth quarter, and that was when I think Buffalo was really laying back. And they almost had an opportunity to win the game if Chris Godwin turns his head around quick enough and is able to catch that Hail Mary in the end zone. But in general, though, it's thought they just
probably PI. But anyways,
whatever. So it's not a PI if they don't throw the flag.
Yeah.
I also saw that as well in the Falcons game the week before, where and then the Falcons honestly should have blown them out. The fact that it came that close, but the Falcons just kept turning the ball over, and Tampa Bay couldn't really get anything going offensively outside of the long touchdown pass to Mike Evans in the first quarter, and then out of that, not really too much in general, on consistent movement until late in the fourth quarter. So I think that's going to be the thing to watch for me is can Tampa Bay have a consistent offensive performance, get consistent drives in all 4 quarters? Because if they're able to do that, then it's going to be something I think that is going to give Houston a lot of problems. But Houston, I think in general, they've had a good defense so far this year. They're young. going to make mistakes, but they can definitely still get after the quarterback. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who from the Houston side of these young players, or I guess also from Tampa Bay, who has impressed you the most so far this year?
I mean, besides C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson has been really impressive. I mean, those guys, both of those guys are cornerstones for an offense. And on Tampa Bay side, as far as young guys, I haven't really seen anyone. Rashad White is really, really good. I know he's a second-year guy. However, that offensive line, I don't think allows him to reach his full potential just because he's getting hit so early on in the down. So
yeah,
those are a few guys. Let's go ahead and transition over into predictions here. But before we do that, if you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. It is the best way to help out the channel, and you get notified when we create new content. We appreciate everybody helping us hit our goal of getting to 2,000 subscribers before Halloween. And with that being said, Tyler, who do you have coming out ahead in this matchup?
So the thing for me is Tampa Bay is 10th most in passing yards allowed per game, just in total yards. But actually, since they've played one less game, they're actually probably even maybe a little bit more than that. And so it looks like averaging about 230 passing yards per game. On the flip side, Houston, when it comes to passing the ball, they are above average on the season. And C.J. Stroud has obviously had a very hot start.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be the thing that I think Houston's going to be able to take advantage of, is maybe they can exploit that secondary a little bit. They did have a huge loss on their offensive line. Jared Peterson, saw it correctly, was carted off the field during the game. So that's definitely going to be an injury to watch. I'm pretty sure normally if you're carted off the field, that's normally not very good. But, I mean, we'll have to see.
Unless you're Paul Pierce.
That's true. But I'm going to go with Houston in this one. I think they're just going to be a little bit more consistent. I feel like Baker Mayfield's offense just is struggling just to stay consistent and maybe relying a little bit more on the big plays, a little bit too much here, which I think Mike Evans can exploit this young secondary group. But in general, though, I think Houston's just going to be a little bit more consistent, and it's going to be at Houston. So I'm going to go with them.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Houston as well. I just think I think they have the more consistent passing attack, and they have the more consistent running attack. Dameon Pierce is averaging more yards per carry. And yeah, I like what they have going on. Even like Nico Collins and Mike Evans. So Nico Collins has 33 receptions for 557 yards and 3 touchdowns. Mike Evans has 33 receptions for 507 yards and 5 touchdowns. And so a lot of those have come off big plays. Like the last 2 games, I think Mike Evans has had a 40 and a 60-yarder against the Falcons. And so like, they are relying a lot on those big plays to have the very minimal amount of offense that they can create. So I'm going to go with the Texans as well. I just think they're the more consistent team in this matchup.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good one either way.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this one. But let's go ahead and wrap it up here. We are both taking the Texans. So go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on who you think is going to come out ahead. Is it going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Is it going to be the Houston Texans? And other than that, we will see you guys next time.